After I quit, a coworker's false claims almost ruined me, so I exposed her and her boss's scandalous secrets. OMG. Mandatory on mobile. All right, I was advised to share this narrative in this community. I will be frank. There are no heroes or villains in this account. I perceived injustice and sought retribution. With that in mind, let me provide some background and get to the intriguing part that we are all interested in. For several years, I worked as a security guard at a factory. In my final year, I was promoted to site supervisor and managed the guard booth. We were independent contractors. Our contract was straightforward: ensure that everyone who entered was registered, monitor the cameras, and notify higher-ups when they had guests. Occasionally, we conducted walkthroughs or completed some paperwork. It was uncomplicated, and depending on your shift, it afforded significant downtime. During my employment, I made a few friends, a few adversaries, and generally got along with most of the staff. It is surprisingly easy to investigate incidents when people are willing to talk to you. One of the adversaries I encountered was a supervisor, whom I will refer to as Ted. Ted had climbed the ranks from a line worker and believed that because he had elevated himself from nothing, he earned his inflated sense of self-worth. He positioned himself against anyone he couldn't dominate, and I never acknowledged his authority. We all recognize his type. Ted treated his line workers quite poorly, and more than a few approached me to report his misdeeds. One of our responsibilities was to document any such complaints as incident reports, submitting one to factory administration and another to our company while filing the original. Ted had a dedicated folder in the filing cabinet. He did not appreciate this, nor did he hold any fondness for me. At the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we lost most of our staff in the booth. We were down to 3 guards trying to manage a 24/7 schedule. From March until October, when I departed, we worked numerous 12-hour shifts during that period. My company struggled to fill the vacancies, hiring only 2 guards in that time. Neither remained for more than 2 weeks. By October, I was exhausted. Then both of my remaining guards resigned. I fully understood their reasons. I quickly submitted my 2 weeks' notice and refused to work more than 12 hours each day. After I handed in my resignation, my company hurried to find a replacement for me and the vacant guards. They secured my replacement at the beginning of my final week, and she began on a Sunday. I trained her for a single day, and then she never returned. On my last day, I learned she had claimed that I intimidated her and made her feel uncomfortable. She informed my supervisor that she did not feel safe around me. I was furious. I have never mixed business with personal matters. I am a large individual and work out. I have never harbored such intentions at work. It has been a long-running joke wherever I have worked because my mantra has always been, I do not engage in personal matters at my workplace. I felt burnt out. An incredible woman, who I am now dating, was planned to visit me in 2 weeks. I had dedicated hours to training this new employee. I had scheduled her during my shift for the entire week to guide her through every aspect of the job. I had negotiated with the factory administration to ensure those arrangements. I was doing everything I could to support her because she was stepping into a major chaotic situation. Administration was seeking a different contractor. Supervisors were attempting to access our files. We possessed vast amounts of sensitive information that could easily elevate someone's career or at least eliminate substantial competition. It was utter chaos. At this point, I had not enjoyed a day off or a good night's sleep in 3 months, and the boss I had only communicated with over the phone showed up in person to deliver this information. I was nearly terminated over this during my last week. If I did not have the work ethic instilled in me by my father, I would have walked away at that moment. Instead, I completed my day and left, never intending to think about that job again. This is where the story might reasonably conclude. However, it didn't, and this is where things become particularly interesting. After I departed, a few friends kept me informed about what was happening. My replacement returned for a day and then resigned, stating that the long hours would prevent her from being with her child. I was annoyed, but it was not my concern, until a few days ago. Ted discovered her accusations and started spreading rumors that I had been terminated for sexual harassment. He then informed people that I was a repeat offender and had caused a previous female employee to resign as well. She had left after I was promoted to the site supervisor position over her. I had seniority, and she had a questionable disciplinary history with several incidents that almost led to her dismissal. I did not appreciate this, especially since 2/3 of the incident reports I had documented on TED were for sexual harassment. What Ted failed to realize is that I do not take kindly to being messed with. While I am generally quiet and unassuming, I had taken plenty of time to build my mutually assured destruction folders. As a side note, when I worked as a computer technician, I was treated terribly and nearly dismissed by my former boss. He issued me directives that violated company policy, resulting in an immediate final written warning when they came to light. Since I lacked proof that he had instructed me to do what I did, I bore full responsibility. Since then, I have created mutually assured destruction folders on anyone I believed might try to undermine me. Ted was one such person. All the originals of my folders are securely stored online and rarely accessed. However, Ted provoked me and jeopardized my future job prospects. Reputation is everything. So, I decided to open his folder. I had access to the factory's camera system. In small-town factories, things can get appalling. You would be astonished at the behaviors people exhibit. A particularly popular activity is engaging in intimate acts in the parking lot. Ted had managed to create a little entourage for himself by offering better line positions to women who provided him with some personal favors. I captured pictures and videos documenting these activities. I assembled a nicely organized folder with select clips and stills and sent them to his wife and eldest daughter. He has been married for around 20 years and is a father to 4 daughters, 2 of whom are in college, 1 graduating, and 1 due to graduate in a year or 2. I have no idea what transpired afterward, but I doubt it went well for him. However, that was not the conclusion. I was still unsatisfied. This entire situation would not have occurred if that replacement had not used me as an excuse to escape. As I mentioned, there are no heroes in this tale. During her brief training period, my replacement inquired about mobile phones with good cameras along with several peculiar policy questions. A few direct questions revealed that she had an OnlyFans account. I cautioned her that this would be a significant violation of our contract with the company. Any form of sex work is strictly prohibited, as the organization serves clients in Las Vegas and in several European countries where it is legal and does not wish for employees to moonlight. The company is extraordinarily stringent about this policy, so strict that I might have been able to terminate her on the spot. They are impartial man or woman. Such actions are not tolerated. Reflecting on this and filled with indignation, I researched her further. She conveniently included links to her premium Snap account. I compiled this information and forwarded it to 3 entities: my former employer, the Internal Revenue Service, and her ex-partner. She had been engaged in a lengthy custody dispute with him, and our state tends to be conservative. Judges here generally harbor prejudices against sex workers. Many assume that these women are drug-dependent and unfit to care for children. I just provided her ex-partner with evidence of sex work and potential tax fraud. If his attorney cannot secure at least shared custody, he may face a lack of child support, all on him for being a terrible person. So that is my account. Let me know if you think this qualifies as payback or not, as I am honestly unsure if I went far enough. Story 2. I dated Jasper, found out he was with Theo. After blocking him, I messaged Theo to plot revenge. Now it's all part of my twisted plan. I am utilizing a disposable account for clear reasons. I am a 21-year-old male who recently had a brief romantic involvement with an 18-year-old male. We will refer to him as Jasper. Jasper and I connected on Grindr and enjoyed each other's company throughout September of the previous year. Initially, everything seemed promising, and Jasper appeared to genuinely appreciate me. I must confess that he was somewhat inconsistent at the beginning. He was a bit unreliable, but he later expressed some desire to engage in a more committed relationship. We went on a few dates, spent time together, and overall, we had a good time. It felt like we really enjoyed one another's company. To be frank, I was truly fond of him. He was precisely my type, enjoyed similar interests, and was simply endearing. After our second encounter, he declared, "I love you," and continued to express such sentiments. However, everything came to an abrupt stop at the beginning of October when he informed me, citing mental health reasons, that we could no longer date, although he wanted to continue spending time together. At first, I was okay with this, or at least I believed I was. Whenever he faced an issue, I was there to support him. I assisted him through a great deal because I loved him. I hoped that if I took things slowly, eventually, the situation would work itself out and he would come back around. This mindset changed dramatically when I learned about another individual, whom we will call Theo. Theo was an attractive young man who I found out had been communicating with Jasper, and it seemed that Jasper was interested in him as well. I once spotted Theo sitting in the passenger seat of Jasper's vehicle when Jasper was dropping off a very inebriated friend of mine. I inquired if they were involved, and Jasper confirmed that they were. A few months later, I discovered that these two were likely conversing during the time I was dating Jasper. It appeared I was merely a secondary option for Jasper whenever Theo was unavailable. At one point, Jasper called me and expressed a desire to discuss something. Wanting to be the supportive friend he needed, I listened as we shared breakfast together. Jasper revealed to me that Theo had hit him twice. Theo had been extremely intoxicated and not only struck him, but also hurled a water bottle at him. I was furious. I wanted to confront Theo with violence. My anger stemmed not only from the fact that someone was harming a friend, but also because this was the same individual who captured Jasper's interest. Someone who physically harmed him. I never laid a hand on Jasper in any way. I've been very intoxicated before, and never did hitting him cross my mind. Yet this violent alcoholic was the one Jasper preferred over me. I felt an overwhelming urge to yell. I urged Jasper to block him on all platforms, and initially, it was a struggle because Jasper genuinely wanted to help, poor Theo. However, I reminded him that there was no rescuing such a person. Fortunately, after some time, Jasper eventually blocked him, and as far as I know, their connection has ceased. Eventually, I decided to block Jasper. I recognized that he probably wanted to remain friends, but I couldn't move on from my feelings for him. I don't even think I can now. Today, I missed him more than anything, but I am aware that he is not healthy for me. My friends disapproved of him. I now realize that he had love-bombed me, and I was merely his side piece. Still, I wish I could have been his true partner. It has been 2 months since I blocked Jasper, and an amusing development has occurred. I spotted Theo on Grindr. I recognized him immediately upon viewing his profile. In that instant, something within me just clicked. I sent Theo a message. To be honest, I did not really anticipate a response, but to my surprise, he replied. We began communicating. I was slightly apprehensive that he might recall me or my name, but when we met and I confirmed his identity, he did not remember me at all. Now, I need to address my motives. Why am I spending time with my ex's former partner, particularly one who is an abusive alcoholic? Trust me, it is not because I find him attractive. He is somewhat repugnant in my view. I wanted to uncover what made this individual so remarkable. What qualities made him the preferable choice over me? What is it about him that led Jasper to hesitate in ending things when faced with violence? I found out that there is nothing remarkable about him. This person is the most mundane, unremarkable individual I have ever encountered. Initially, it struck me that Jasper may have been drawn to him because he perceived him as a project to fix. On our first date, he even discussed having received 2 DUI convictions. Then I had another realization. What if I continued this charade? Honestly, he seemed to actually like me. What if I dated this person not out of genuine affection, but solely to eventually undermine him completely? He is a person who undoubtedly gets everything he desires in life, yet remains ungrateful. He drinks to the point of blacking out, harms those who care about him, and is consistently demanding. I have to exert considerable effort to achieve my goals, and even then, I do not always succeed. Meanwhile, this ungrateful individual recklessly destroys what he possesses and continually bites the hand that supports him. To make matters worse, he possesses a pronounced victim mentality. Just today, he kept repeating that his roommate misunderstood him when he mentioned wanting to smash a window. Some individuals look at broken individuals and think, I can fix him. I now look at Theo and think, I will make him worse. Throughout this time, I have been nothing but kind. I give him what he desires. I kiss him, I cuddle him, I hug him, and reassure him that everything will be all right. This week, he was arrested on campus for failing to pay a speeding ticket. He disappeared for a few days, then resurfaced, contacting me. Today, I presented him with a stuffed bear and some candies while asking if he would be my Valentine. As far as I am aware, he genuinely likes me. He believes I am supportive of him, and as he exited my car after receiving the gift, he uttered, "I love you." I did not reciprocate. Instead, I ensured that I drove away a short distance before erupting in laughter. At some point, I intend to completely shatter his heart. How I will accomplish this, I am unsure. I could take the kind approach and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not ready for a relationship, but you are truly wonderful." Alternatively, I could take the honest route and express how much I truly despise him while revealing that I have been deceptive this entire time. Jasper might discover that we are dating. Honestly, he has become nearly insignificant in my thoughts now. Perhaps he will feel jealous, or perhaps he will pity me. It is uncertain. Why am I undertaking this? I ask myself this question frequently. Part of me already wishes to abandon this plan. Honestly, it seems pointless. Who am I attempting to prove something to? Yet I cannot resist the urge. I wish to dismantle the man who unjustly received the affection I coveted, for daring to injure the man I once cherished deeply. I aim to deliver a lesson to the universe about not messing with me. I want to take revenge on the entire world for allowing me to be manipulated and making me believe I would remain passive. I am doing this not only to satisfy my thirst for retribution, but because I am capable of doing it. I acknowledge that what I am doing is morally wrong on numerous levels. I genuinely wish I were not proceeding with this plan. I truly aspire to be someone who can simply let go of such matters. However, life has become exceedingly dull, and I feel that this course of action may aid in my healing from everything that transpired last semester. In summary, I dated someone I will refer to as Jasper. Jasper did not reciprocate my feelings after love bombing me and utilizing me as his side partner. I discovered that Jasper was involved with an individual I will call Theo. Theo was abusive towards Jasper, and I assisted Jasper in escaping that situation. I blocked Jasper because I wanted to focus on myself, and he simply wished to be friends. Months later, I encountered Theo on Grindr, and we began communicating. I am in a relationship with him with the primary intention of eventually breaking his heart and diminishing his spirit. Story 3. Fired my awful boss who tried to use me as a scapegoat while I was hospitalized. Now I just disqualified her job application. OMG. I am a woman in my 30s who has always been overly accommodating to others throughout my life. I have been employed in the marketing field for more than 10 years. Throughout this time, I have experienced my share of supervisors, ranging from effective to mediocre, and even some who were quite poor. One supervisor, in particular, stands out as exceptionally problematic. This incident occurred more than 5 years ago. Pamela, the vice president of marketing and sales at a mid-sized retailer, was not her real name. She began working at the company a few years after I did. If the rumors were accurate, she was the fourth choice for the role and was hired merely to satisfy shareholder expectations. I worked as a manager under her, and my primary responsibility was to ensure that the website and physical stores effectively displayed their products, received all monthly sales materials, managed advertising initiatives, established and supervised the department's budget, oversaw all department projects and operations, and created reports to represent sales figures, among other tasks. In essence, I performed her responsibilities and managed all the administrative work required to keep our department functioning smoothly. I was able to handle this because I had access to her email and frequently sent messages on her behalf to keep operations running. Pamela typically arrived at the office after 10 a.m., spent time on business lunches, and organized company events, which I did not see the necessity of, although I ended up planning those as well. I regularly questioned her spending habits as our budget did not allow for extravagant events. Pamela directed me to take funds from future months' budgets to cover our current month's overspending. Consequently, at the start of each month, I had an initial budget, but by the end, I submitted a revised version, changed at Pamela's instruction, that made it seem as though her expenditures were under control. This point will be relevant later. I'm not without faults, and I made errors here and there while juggling numerous responsibilities. I frequently found myself working 12-hour days, alternating between being in the office and completing tasks once my child was asleep. I also dedicated early mornings and late evenings on weekends to completing work. During Pamela's first significant holiday season at the company, sales were underwhelming. She constantly altered her vision for the store layouts, frequently engaged new advertising and public relations agencies to boost sales, most of which were comprised of her personal acquaintances, and disregarded our buying and merchandising team's planned promotions in favor of her superior alternatives. At the same time, I was contending with a persistent infection that escalated to sepsis, leading to my hospitalization. Both my doctors and my husband attributed my health issues to work-related stress and advised me to take a break. In my recovery, I came to the sobering realization of how much I was jeopardizing my own health, impacting my family, and even undermining the company I worked for. Eventually, old habits resurfaced, and I felt compelled to check both my emails and Pamela's. What I discovered infuriated me. Initially, I received a beautiful bouquet of flowers from upper management wishing me a speedy recovery, and I knew Pamela was behind the gesture. She chose her favorite flowers. I went into her email inbox to file the receipt correctly for accounting upon my return. Upon reviewing the inbox for the last 3 days, I found emails that were clearly unrelated to work. Among them were Pamela venting to her personal friends about my inability to simply shake off sepsis and return to work. She also lamented her inability to locate any of my notes, spreadsheets, or documents for responsibilities that she was technically responsible for, which were clearly labeled on our shared drive. Moreover, I stumbled upon an email in which she sought advice from a colleague at a previous company on how to increase sales and safeguard her job. In this lengthy correspondence, her old acquaintance inquired whether anyone was managing most of the workload, and Pamela indicated that I was. This colleague suggested that my mismanagement could be blamed for the difficulties we faced, and that I could be held accountable if sales did not improve by the season's end. Pamela noted that I was hospitalized and reiterated comments from her earlier discussions. The colleague responded that, while they could not terminate my employment outright, since that could be viewed as retaliation given my emergency medical leave if Pamela could demonstrate that I was stealing from the company or misusing company resources, she would have just cause to have me dismissed, effectively using me as a scapegoat. Upon my return, Pamela summoned me to her office and expressed her concerns regarding my workload, suggesting she would relieve me of some responsibilities. She declared that she would handle managing the department budget herself and requested that I simply deliver a small stack of invoices to accounting. Additionally, she insisted that I was not permitted to discuss budgets with the accounting department under any circumstances. Furthermore, she stated that if I had any concerns regarding the department or my workload, I was to address them directly with her, not with human resources. It was clear to me where this was heading. Fortunately for me, I had established a good relationship with Lois, our main accountant who was in her 50s. Lois had always assured me that she would support me to the best of her abilities if I needed assistance. With that in mind, I picked up the stack of invoices from Pamela's desk to deliver to accounting. I also included the email threads I had read during my hospitalization, as well as the current unmodified budget for the month that Pamela had not altered. Additionally, I unearthed hard copies of past budgets in my filing cabinet that had Pamela's handwriting indicating which figures needed to be altered to balance the budget. Lastly, I attached an email from our initial round of budget adjustments in which Pamela subtly threatened to replace me with someone else if I failed to meet her requests. When I walked in to deliver the invoices to accounting, I ran into Lois. She initiated a conversation about the invoices, and I cautioned her to remember that Pamela was the only individual in our department authorized to discuss our budget and invoices with her. Lois noticed the suspiciously thick file folder on her desk, nodded firmly, and kindly ushered me out of her office. Within a week, Pamela was terminated from her position. From what I have gathered, she has been consistently job-hopping since then. The CEO and Human Resources brought me in to personally apologize for my experiences and offered me a paid week-long vacation that I could take at my discretion. Given the various issues I faced at the company, I ultimately resigned after another year. Fast forward to the present, I now find myself as a manager in sales and marketing once again. I have a supportive boss named Mike, who is in his 40s, and he trusts my professional judgment, backing me on nearly every decision. We are in the process of hiring a team that I will solely manage and guide. Today, as I reviewed the applications, I came across Pamela's resume mixed in with many others. I stared at her name, contemplating how many individuals might share it. After reviewing her qualifications, I confirmed that it was indeed her. She has notably slipped down the corporate ladder, with vice president at our former company being the highest position she has attained. As expected, she overstated her accomplishments, misrepresenting my work as her own, and falsely claiming that she achieved an 87% increase in sales during the holiday season at our previous company. As a person who tends to prioritize others' feelings and believes in giving every candidate a fair chance, I found immense satisfaction in clicking disqualified. Edit. In response to those suggesting I should interview her to observe her reaction, I would have found it fascinating to witness her expression as she entered the room. However, I felt it might jeopardize my boss's trust in my decision-making abilities. Perhaps I will compose a personalized rejection email. Story 4. OMG, after getting fired, I exposed my boss's hotel violations, shut it down, and revealed his cheating to his wife. What a whirlwind. During my time at university, I worked at a hotel to support myself financially. When I began working there, the hotel was in urgent need of staff. I struck an agreement with the previous owner, allowing me to select shifts that enabled me to attend my classes and exams. Additionally, my proficiency in several foreign languages earned me a small bonus every month. The former owner was a wonderful person who owned multiple hotels, so I seldom encountered him. However, when he was present, he consistently took the time to socialize with the employees and, on occasion, invited those of us at the front desk to upscale restaurants if we were not scheduled to work. Fast forward a few years, I was nearing the end of my studies, and naturally, it was time for me to move on to a career in my chosen field. As per my agreement with the former owner, I primarily worked night shifts, which allowed me to attend university during the day. To balance the favor I received, I developed the habit of completing additional tasks during the quiet night hours that other shifts would typically handle, while I could have simply passed the time. Initially, my coworkers appreciated the assistance, and we formed a close-knit team, but eventually, staff would come and go. When the former owner retired and his unpleasant son took over the business, I immediately had concerns. The new owner did not seem to have a high opinion of me, although I was unaware of the precise reasons for his disdain. By that time, I was nearly the only long-term employee remaining from when I first started. One of my responsibilities included light administrative work to support the morning manager, which required me to access the manager's network account. One night, while compiling my lists, I logged into the manager's account and stumbled upon an email that had my name in the subject line. Although I understood that snooping was not appropriate, I couldn't resist reading it. To my shock, the new owner expressed a desire to terminate my employment. I was still under my original employee contract, including benefits for foreign language skills and the ability to choose my shifts. I can only speculate that these privileges contributed to the new owner's dislike for me. Other reasons remain unclear and seem rather weak to me. However, he could not simply dismiss me without justification. Additionally, I would be entitled to severance pay upon termination, and generally, the shift rotation required my presence. Yet, the new owner appeared oblivious to this, as reflected in the emails. I sought out more correspondence regarding myself and discovered additional messages. I found a chain of emails involving some employees, the manager, and the new owner. Naturally, I was not copied on these messages, as I was the controversial subject. My colleagues resented me for occupying the night shifts, as they were more lucrative with additional bonuses. The manager maintained a neutral stance, tempering their colleagues' eagerness to see me removed, as my presence was essential for staffing needs. The new owner and some coworkers were actively working to create a hostile work environment in hopes that I would resign willingly. I was incensed and considered various reactions, ranging from vandalizing their cars to burning down the hotel. Ultimately, I opted for a more measured form of retaliation. I contacted my uncle, a lawyer, at 2 a.m. seeking his advice. To maintain evidence, I forwarded all pertinent emails to myself, captured photographs, printed copies, and documented the entire situation on video to ensure I had a complete record. My uncle advised me to stay calm and wait to see if conditions worsened or if it was mere bravado. So I took a few days to observe. Unfortunately, things escalated. Insulting comments about my appearance and attire were merely the beginning. While some colleagues remained professional, those conspiring against me consistently assigned extra tasks or offloaded responsibilities onto me, which they were normally required to handle. I always kept a change of clothes at the hotel, which suddenly went missing. One individual even began to threaten me with violence. Still, I held my ground and refused to give in, determined not to spare them the severance pay or concede to their demands. I was, after all, an adult capable of standing firm. However, I ceased any additional work that I was not contractually obligated to perform. Ironically, this became the justification they used for my dismissal, but they still had to compensate me. The next day, my uncle submitted my lawsuit against the hotel, armed with evidence of the emails and documented harassment from my coworkers. Reportedly, the manager turned pale upon realizing the source of the emails. The new owner had been vacationing and had to cut his trip short to address this issue. Their legal counsel recommended settling, which I accepted, securing my severance and a substantial additional payment enough to support me until I graduated without needing further employment. However, that was only part of my vengeance. While I had sought retribution against the new owner financially, my next step targeted the hotel itself. During my solitary night shifts, I meticulously documented every violation of city, county, district, state, and federal regulations I could identify. This ranged from minor issues, like harmless mold under the kitchen sink, to significant violations concerning structural changes to the building. The hotel was under limited historical protection due to its significance related to notable historical figures from centuries past. Consequently, any renovations or modifications required approval from an oversight committee, a process that could take considerable time. Furthermore, there was a government grant awarded to the new owner for preserving the building in its current condition. With my uncle's assistance, I submitted documentation of all violations to the relevant agencies. Within a month, inspectors from health, building code, fire safety, and financial regulatory bodies inundated the hotel. Ultimately, it was the building and fire inspectors who forced the establishment to shut down. As the new owner had made major renovations to the luxury apartments on the top floor, which he utilized when in town. Consequently, the new owner faced repercussions including the repayment of the grant, fines for unauthorized alterations to the property that jeopardized guest safety, and a mandated closure until the building met code requirements. I also informed a friend, a former colleague who had worked in journalism at a local paper, about the situation. The publication ran a feature on the accumulated violations, which significantly harmed the hotel's reputation upon its reopening, resulting in poor reviews. Ultimately, the financial strain led the new owner to sell the hotel to cover the fines and the costs of necessary repairs. As a final twist, all the individuals who had previously tried to intimidate me lost their jobs as well. While I recognize that innocent coworkers also suffered the consequences, many of them had chosen not to support or defend me, leaving me with little remorse for their outcome. To add the final touch to my revenge, I discovered that the new owner frequently entertained escorts when he was in town. Although this is legally permissible in my country, he was still married. It took some effort to relay this information to the new owner's wife, but I managed to obtain her email through one of my former colleagues who had left the company prior to these events. I informed her of the new owner's activities while he was away. While I am unsure of the exact repercussions, it ultimately led to their divorce. In summary, the new owner disliked me, so I waited for my termination to sue him for fostering a toxic work environment to force my resignation. I received my severance and a substantial settlement. Then, I reported various code violations to the appropriate agencies, resulting in the hotel's closure. To cover expenses, the hotel was sold, and my former harassers lost their jobs. Lastly, I disclosed the new owner's infidelity to his wife, which led to their marriage ending. Story 5. Valentine's Day Dilemma. After a romantic night, he says he should have gone home, leaving me shocked and hurt. Is this relationship worth it? I, a 23-year-old woman, and my boyfriend, a 25-year-old man, have been in a relationship for just over 3 months. He was supposed to work until 7 p.m. on Valentine's Day, and then again at 8 a.m. the following day. Since we both live an hour away from his workplace, we originally planned to celebrate Valentine's Day on Saturday, as he would finish work earlier that day. I loved this arrangement because I also worked on Valentine's Day and had classes, so I anticipated being quite tired. However, my roommates unexpectedly left town for the weekend, so he enthusiastically decided to come over after work for a relaxed evening, even though we agreed to go to bed early so he could be well rested for his job. As the night progressed, I ordered food, prepared some marijuana, and dressed nicely. He arrived, we had some conversation, and I had previously provided him with food choices including, or I can choose, to which he let me decide. He inquired about my order and commented, we should have gotten Indian food, even though the delivery had not arrived yet. I explained that I ordered what I was craving and that I was unapologetically content with my choice, as Indian was one of the options and he hadn't voiced his preference. We then smoked, ate, chatted, and it was time for sleep. As we settled into bed with the lights off, he suggested, "Let's have intimacy in the morning. I'm really tired right now." Knowing his job is in the medical field and understanding the importance of sleep, I replied, "Okay, sure, let's rest. Good night, sweetheart." And we shared a kiss and cuddled as we usually do to fall asleep. Just 30 seconds later, he started to feel me up, attempting to initiate intimacy. I began to laugh, and as we paused, I said, "Wow, is it already morning?" which made us both chuckle, and he laughed loudly. Once we calmed down, I playfully said, "What if I held you to your word?" He didn't respond, as he was already removing our clothing, and we then made love. Here's my dilemma. One of the first things he said after I finished was, I should have just gone straight home from work." This shocked and hurt me deeply. I paused for about 10 seconds, then replied, "Yeah, you should have. Good night." And I turned away from him to try to sleep. I felt conflicted about not expressing how hurt I was at that moment and regretted my sarcasm. I started to cry silently, wondering if his comment was meant to be sarcastic or humorous, or if he genuinely felt that way. I waited for his response, but there was none. I remained silent because I thought he might be upset if I brought it up, as I didn't want to intrude on his sleep time. I just wanted both of us to rest. I assumed his comment meant he felt he was sacrificing sleep by coming over. While I understood he'd likely sleep a bit later, hearing those words broke my heart. I had been accommodating and friendly. "Don't you want to cuddle?" he asked as he spooned me, to which I replied, "Yes, let's cuddle." After about 15 minutes, unable to fall asleep, he started talking. I seized the moment to ask, "Did you mean it when you said you should have just gone right home?" He replied, Sort of in a way, not entirely," and evaded the question. I said, "It hurt my feelings when you said that right after we finished you wished you had just gone home instead." He acknowledged it wasn't the right thing to say and inquired if I wanted him to leave. I replied, "No, I only mentioned you should have gone home because then you wouldn't have said that to me in the first place." He asked if I was angry and I said, "No, my feelings are just hurt. What you said made me sad." He explained, "My remark definitely wasn't about us having intimacy. It was just late. But I guess last time we hung out, you stayed over late and had to work early the next day. It wasn't about us being intimate. You know I'm not one to enthusiastically discuss intimacy like, 'Wow, that felt amazing.'" I already understood that if he had gone home immediately after work, he would be asleep by now. However, it was still his choice to come over. I responded, "It doesn't matter what you meant. I don't care if you were thinking that you wished you had gone home. The point is that you said that to me there was no need to say anything at all." He admitted, "Yeah, I wasn't thinking." So let's recap. I provided him with marijuana, food, chocolates, and looked nice on Valentine's Day, yet he didn't thank me for any of it or truly express much affection or gratitude. His demeanor was colder than normal that day. All I received from him was a text in the morning wishing me a happy Valentine's Day, no heart emoji or anything else. Now, after everything, he did not apologize for his hurtful comment. He asked again if he should leave and if I still loved him. I told him to stay and that I loved him. I mentioned, "I honestly can't recall if you apologized to me. Would you like to?" He did apologize and stated, "I really didn't mean it in relation to us being intimate." I replied, "Thanks, no, I know it wasn't about the intimacy." That ended our conversation. I stayed awake for approximately 15 more minutes before falling asleep. The following morning, he hit the snooze button until the last minute and left in a hurry without saying much or giving me a kiss or hug. He merely said, "Goodbye." This situation feels like the final straw. I'm coming to believe that he doesn't care for me based on his actions, and I find it difficult to handle. This is not the first time I have felt unloved, uneasy, or unappreciated by him. On Christmas Day, he showed up without a gift, and I remained composed because we had discussed future plans for a present, which he eventually delivered. However, that night felt somewhat awkward, and although I got him a few gifts, it was nothing extravagant. He later redeemed himself by explaining he didn't have time to acquire the gift he truly wanted, but that just added pressure. New Year's felt similarly unsatisfactory, which I noted as strike one. He has never done anything to commemorate our relationship, nor has he acknowledged our anniversary on the correct date. I bought him a gift one month, and while he frequently takes me out to restaurants, movies, music events, bars, and parks, if I cover any of his expenses, he reimburses me. Nevertheless, at times like this, his comments and lack of affection make me feel unloved. Am I in the wrong for considering breaking up with my boyfriend over this? Is he being inconsiderate? Should this be counted as another strike, or do I wait it out? Should I accept late gestures, flowers, or gifts as a proper apology? Should I stay or leave if I receive nothing? We have known each other for 4 months and have been dating for 3. I recognize I have other romantic prospects, enjoy being single, yet I understand patience is a virtue, and I desire a relationship at this moment.